Hi, it's Julie again from Spellbound, and this is where we left the previous video, having added the sunflowers and the berries to our wire background. We're now ready to add larger shaped beads to give us some punches of colour through what can be a bit of a confusion of seed beads. You need something to draw the eye, to focus the eye, so instead of seeing lots and lots and lots of individual beads, you start to see areas of green, areas of pink, and they make sense to your eyes as flowers. So I've got my original plans here. This is the one where I just laid in the leaves, and this is the one where I laid in the flowers on top of the leaves, the Lucite flowers. So we've got these two stages to go. Now, having planned it all out previously like this, I've obviously adjusted things slightly, so things have moved a few millimetres this way, a few millimetres that way, and actually some of the things have changed completely. So although I've got my original plans as a guide, I'm going to have to rethink exactly the final positions of these components. Now when I pick it up away from the dark background, you can see that we've broken the edge with all of these different flowers and fruit. And initially I was thinking I might need to put in some little black leaf blades because it's a nice simple shape and colour to help me to break the edge. I'm not actually sure I need those at the moment, so I might slip them in at the last. But instead of putting them in at this stage, I'm going to reserve those to see whether or not I need them later. However, I do think I need a few little punches of green. So I've got some green leaf beads, and I've got these lovely lustrous leaf beads. Both of these are made in glass. You can see this one is particularly good because it comes in a vitriol finish, which gives us a golden pinkish tinge which fits with our theme. So I'm just going to slip a few in, and I'm going to put them in twos or threes rather than individuals, certainly to start with. Now I've got a little gap up there, so I don't really want to mirror that one exactly, so let's move these over to here and perhaps put this green in here instead, and I think that works okay. They don't have to be too precise at the moment. I think I probably need something on this end, and we need to cover that little bit there as well, that little bit of wire that's showing. I might make another sunflower for that. Now I've got a few leaves left. I've got more if I want to use them, but I don't want to overdo it, so I think perhaps a single one in there. Let's just try those up there for now. Not too bad, it's lifted it a little bit. Now let's have a look at our Lucite flowers. I've got three colours here that I thought would tone with what I've done with the seed beads. Now I've got purple, orange, yellow. I don't have to use them all, but I think definitely I need something there. As you can see, it's a bald spot. So I think I'm probably going to go with orange there. Let's have a look. I don't want it too symmetrical, so I've got a slightly smaller flower there. Let's see how this is. That's better. I'd like to get a purple one in if I can. You can probably hear my brain working. This is sort of a pleasure, and it's also a bit of a worry because we've spent a long time getting to this stage. We don't want to spoil it right at the finish of the project. I think it's a little bit dense there, so I'm going to take that off. I don't think that's too bad. Now we've got the addition of some little trumpets, which are these little glass lily flowers, to go in the middle of these flowers. I could just put a plain round bead in, but I like these because they add a little touch of the exotic, I suppose. One little red one there, perhaps red in with the purple. Red and purple always work so well together. And let's try an orange in that one. Actually, I think that's getting there. I've got to make sure I cover this piece of wire that's showing there, but I'm actually quite happy with that. I think that's going to be my plan for this final stage. And in many ways this final stage is the most important. So double check and take yourself a new photograph just on your phone so you know exactly what you're trying to achieve. Now admittedly you might have to move things 2 or 3 millimeters left and right, or you might decide once you've got this area assembled that this is too busy. So you might take some out. I'm actually going to start centre front, and I'm going to put on this one and this one. I'm also going to put on these leaves and this leaf. I'm going to lift these away for the moment. I'm going to keep the beads in approximately the places I wanted them to be. Yes, I've got them all. And we're literally just going to stitch them on. Now I've got a piece of red thread because it matches the wire at the back. We need to keep the wire as tidy as we possibly can. And I've threaded it with about 75 centimetres of double thread, and I've got a little bit too much there, so I'm going to trim it back. I'd like about 75 centimetres. That's about right. You don't want to use too long a length because when you're doing this type of stitching, the wire can pull on the thread and snag it a little bit, and it can get a little bit tired and raggedy. So it's best to change the length of the length of thread, rather than try to use a long one and end up with something that is pulled all out of shape and a little bit hairy. If you've done a lot of beadwork in the past, you'll know what I mean by a hairy thread. It catches on everything. So let's start with a double stitch on the back. I'm going to leave those ends for now so that I know where I've started. And let's come through to the front. Now, because when we're working with a double thread, you need to make sure that the thread pulls through properly each time. Right, that was going to go in there. Now we need a seed bead to hold this centre flower on. And ridiculous as it sounds, that seed bead colour can make or break your finished project. I'm going to go, I think, for a red one. Let's have a little look. Hold it on a separate needle. That's okay. Let's have a look at perhaps a shiny pink one. Often you can't go wrong with shiny pink. That's a little bit too pale. So let's go back to the red. Yep, I think that will be the one. Straight back through. And we want this little one to go in there. So just let's have a little look. Obviously I can rotate this around, and I think I want that to stand back like that. Now it's going to be slightly proud of the surface of the wire, so I've still got some seed beads. I think I'll pop a seed bead behind it to help it stand proud. At the moment I've only got a single pass of double thread through that flower that I've originally put on, so it's a little bit loose, but I don't want to double stitch it until I'm sure that I'm happy with the position of it. So I need to come out about here. So let's have a little look. That's there. So I can run. It's a problem when you've got thread that matches so well to the background. I need to come out about there on the other side so I can run through the wire. Take a stitch through. Make sure there's no loop of thread on the back. Let's have that seed bead to hold this one proud. There we are. You can see that seed bead is holding that purple flower just a little bit proud so that it can sit just above the petals on the orange. And I think this time we will try, see that's lost, so let's try that olive colour we were using. Again, that's a bit lost. Oh, we've got a purple. We might end up back with the red. I think the purple's okay actually. That's the purple. Put that on. Back through the lily flower. Back through the lucite flower. Back through the seed bead. And back through the wire. Take your time, make it neat. You've done all this work. Just get that positioned right. think that's working well. Now I've got a little space in there. Too much. Too much with that green. But let's have a little look at putting in a little lily on its own. That might work very well indeed. So we won't go for a green one because it matches that one there, but I think that little peachy coppery one works quite well. So we need to come out there. Let's have a little look on the back. You can see where we need to come out. That's the needle position. This is the current thread position. Those are the tail ends. That's the current thread position there, and we need to come out here, so we've got to get round this gap. I'm just going to do it with a little running stitch. These are the two tail ends that I don't want to trim off yet. Let's get them out of the way though. As you can see, the thread just pulls into almost nothing. There's, we're at the right place there. So I'm going to put a little double stitch. In the past, when I've had this problem with everything catching on the thread, so in this case we've got bits of petals, bits of berries, everything wants to catch up on my working thread. I've actually encased the work, apart from the bit I'm doing, either in a plastic bag or some cling film. And that's quite useful. I was to cover most of this with cling film, so I just got the little bit visible that I'm working on. The thread doesn't keep catching, but in this case I need to see the whole design as I'm working. Right, so I've got that one. I'm just concerned it might be a little bit too similar. So I've got some extra bits and pieces here, and I've got yellow far too strong. I've got a red one. Ah, so we'll look at the red one, and I've got a gold one which matches the gold beads in the centre of some of the flowers. Perhaps gold. No, red is better. Let's go for red. And I think with the red we can get away with the olive bead in the middle. That's filled in that little gap. Now I'm going to work across the rest of the area. Once I'm happy with a grouping like this, I will go and re-stitch them to make sure they hold firm. Then I'll start a new thread, perhaps in this area or this area, to do the next section. Just if you keep stitching with the same thread through the wire, you will find your thread becomes a little bit raggedy. So I'm going to finish off this area. I'll do another area and I'll be back to you to show the progress, and then I'll show you the finished centerpiece. So progress so far, we've managed to secure these, and I actually took out that little red flower in the centre because once I'd pulled these into place it was a little bit lost. And I've replaced it with 2 of those lovely lustrous leaves, one above and one below. I moved out with a new piece of thread and I added in the 3 little olive leaves. Now originally there were 2, but once I'd put in 2 it needed the 3rd one, and to hold them down flat, because they are a top hole leaf, they can tend to rotate unless you put something on top of them to stop them doing that. I've popped in a little lily flower. With the same piece of thread I added on this lucite flower, and you can see that's covered that little gap on the edge. And then I finished off the thread. I moved on to this far end. Now, I didn't really want to put much more beadwork on the end. I just wanted to put a couple of leaves, but these are quite mobile, these leaves, because again they're threaded across the end. So what I am going to do is, I think, make a berry and put a berry in there, and that will clamp it in place. This is one of the berry stems I didn't use originally. I think that will hold that quite well. Right, so I'm relatively happy with that side. I now want to balance up this side. So I've got a few options I've laid out, and again I've changed my mind from previously because, well, that's the designer's prerogative, isn't it? I've kept with the little leaves there, and I think we're going to pop that there. There, that gives us 3 of the large flowers, and I know we're supposed to do things in odd numbers, but I quite like that big one on the end. And I need to repeat this leaf because we've already got it a few places, so that's going to go in there and there. And I've got a 3rd leaf because I might need it in there to reflect that across. Right, last few decisions made, I hope. I'm going to stitch those on and I'll be back to you. So I've completed stitching on the remainder of the components. As you can see, I changed my mind again, but that after all is the beader's prerogative. And although I was going to have a large flower at the end, I've removed it and put in a smaller version. I've popped those 2 end threaded leaves in, and this one I've had to clamp with an extra little lily bead to stop it lifting. And at the far end I said I thought I might put another berry in to hold these 2 leaves in place, but when I made it, it was a bit too busy because we've already got 3 berries here. So I used a small lucite flower in the yellow colour that matches this, so it draws it back up to here. And that shows the benefit really of having a nice little pot of beads to draw on. Now, I've used colours that I happen to have because I've been working on other projects, and you never go and put the beads away properly, you've always got them in little bags. So I brought together some oddments, and this is what I've come up with. I'm sure you'll have some equally sort of coordinating, but you're not sure what to do with beads, and I hope you'll give this sort of technique a go with those beads, because they're obviously beads you've kept because you like them. Right, now the final part, I'm going to show you how to make a rope that's substantial enough to make this up into a necklace. I'll be back for the next episode and the final episode of how to make a bouquet collage necklace.